Hey guys, I want to talk about Inferno. Now, we've done a lot of Mirage, now we're going to do some Inferno, because those are the two maps that everyone plays. I'm going to talk about the CT side first. The gist of the CT side is that you're constantly going back between A and B. That's the rotator's job. Both rotators actually, because there's a mid rotator and then there's a B rotator. There's the porch guy and the pit guy and the B anchor. I'm not totally sure who's going to be playing all those positions. I think last time we played Luffy and Savage were on B, and then everyone else was A. So while we're looking for a fifth, I'll just refer to the fifth role as the fifth role. And then O-Town and myself and everyone else I'll just call by name. So you're constantly going back between the B and mid, and so that's what I'm going to call at the beginning of the round. I'm going to call 1, how many people are going to which site, because sometimes we'll do 3B, 2A, sometimes we'll even do 4A, 1B. That one's a bit more rare, but I will call it occasionally. And then usually it'll be 2B, 3A. And then I'll also call whether we're doing mid control, B control, or like apps control, passive. So apps control is the simplest, so I guess I'll talk about that. And there what you do is you're usually going to smoke this right at the beginning of the round, and then O-Town is going to come up into the boiler, and I'm going to come up into the apartments. And we'll both try and pretend, say we have CZs, both people will just hold and make sure they can't get apartments control. And then the fifth guy, instead of holding mid, like normal, from arches, he'll hold here. Or maybe he'll come apartments with me. The idea is that you don't want this smoke to totally block off the rotate. Like you want all three guys here, so that people don't jump out mid with this SMG like a Mac 10 and shoot O-Town in the back. So that's the only nuance with taking apartments control. What's more common is to take mid control, which actually doesn't take a whole lot of nades. What happens is the first guy comes out, throws a molly there. Now, what this molly is for is it separates the players as they come out of the T ramp. So you'll have, you'll have your opper posted up, and then a lot of times you'll have someone coming up here fast, or maybe they want to swing out this direction, like right at the beginning of the round. What the molly does is it isolates this guy from his friends. So all of a sudden he can't get down here because the flame will usually spread, and he can't peek this and then fall back banana because there'll be the molly. So let's say O-Town has the spawn. So he'll come up here, bam, whoops, oh wow, I missed it, that would suck. He'll throw the molly, and then I'll come behind him and I'll throw this flash. So he'll throw the molly, he'll hide, and then the flash will come over, and then he and I will both peek, and we'll both try and kill the mid guy. And depending on whether we get the kill or not, if there's no one here and we can keep pushing up probably to here, you don't want to peek ramp, so you want to stay on this side. And so he and I will both push up ramp, and we're basically giving up the apartments control in exchange for mid. And then what the fifth guy will do is he can one, flash that, which is a real nice pop flash to get anyone who's running up apartments. Go blind them for a second, and they won't be able to kill us mid right away. So that's really good. And also, then he can come and be a third guy and sort of watch mid. And then if nothing comes mid, then he'll rotate back around and play a position such as this or in the site, just to watch out for the like a waterfall out apps. and to buy time in order for O-Town and me to wrap the apartments and get the retake. That's how to take mid. It's real simple. Alternatively, you can throw this smoke. I haven't found it as useful in the new Inferno because I can never quite get it right, and people like to walk through the smoke. But if you want to throw that and then peek alt mid, and then like if you have another smoke, you can smoke that and then like play in this sort of an area. This works too, although it does require a lot more utility, and I tend to like the molly and then play behind the molly, and then you can obviously smoke the molly once you're down here, and then fall back to this kind of an angle. But the smoke is particularly useful if you want to op this angle. Okay, now B control. I've talked about mid control, now we're going to talk about B control. You can do it with two people B, or 3 people. You just need at least 2. What happens is the first guy comes up to the corner and throws this Molotov. Now that Molotov is to get anyone behind this broken wall. Because if they've got a good spawn, this is what they're going to do. They're going to come up here, they're going to run, they're going to flash off this wall, and they're going to hide behind here. And they might even throw a pre-fire right there if they think you're holding the angle. And this molly is to prevent a CT opper from peeking this angle. That's what that's for. What else? So if there's this molly, then all of a sudden they have to fall back. They have to fall back, and they're going to fall back here. Which brings me to the second guy's role. The second guy's role is to come up here, throw a molly just like that. This one's a little tricky, so we need to practice it, because you need it to spread into that corner. Because you don't want anyone to be able to hide in here. So you do need to get that molly pretty in there, pretty deep in there. And see, it doesn't always spread properly, but let's see if it'll kill me. Yeah, it doesn't quite spread, so be wary that it's not perfect, because the Molotov spread does vary quite a bit. Anyway, so you'll throw those 2 nades. If you want to be crafty, you can double nade the wood, because you won't have 3 mollies to molly that as well. And then what you can do is one of you can, I'm holding both mouse buttons to throw that flash, and that'll go right up on top of the roof so that you can throw that flash and peek at the same time. You can also throw this smoke after the mollies fade, and basically you need to clear this angle, because they could just be standing in between, like there'll be a molly here and a molly here. So if they're confident and cocky, they'll stand here and wait for you to peek, and they might one-shot you with their AK. So that flash is really good for that angle, and then you can peek car, clear that angle, check wood, and then you'll have a smoke down at the bottom there, and then all of a sudden you have banana control. And if you have 3 guys, you might push someone. This will be mollied, so you'll push someone up to wood who can then re-smoke it, or you'll have an op stay here and everyone else rotate off to A. So basically, the idea of think of Inferno basically like a giant A site of Dust 2, where you have to have either banana control or mid control. Otherwise, unless you have 3 ops and then really good players, you're not going to be able to hold off a rush. Like if you don't have banana control, you're just playing from in B site, or you're just playing from in A site, and they decide to rush up porch or rush out balcony, you really need some sort of position in order to either predict where the rush is coming from and then rotate. For instance, if you push up B and you don't hear anything T ramp, then you know they're probably going A, so you can rotate to have 4A when the rush comes. Or if you, and even if you don't, the rotate doesn't get there in time, the A guys can know, okay, let's say their smoke's fading. Their smoke's mid. Our guys pushed up B. They didn't see anything. Then we know that there's probably like 3 people in apartments getting ready to burst out on the site. And we can fall back and just try and buy time for the rotate to come in, or buy time for the flank to come in. There's lots of nuance with this map where you need to have someone either flanking from banana or flanking from mid if you actually want a chance to retake on these maps. So that's the gist of how to play CT side Inferno. It's a nice map because it's so simple. There's, mid control is kind of weird. Like, there isn't really a mid. Like, the map is effectively a triangle where, the mid goes to A, banana goes to B, and then you've got apartments, which is sort of just keeps it interesting. Because, O-Town can be in apartments with a SOD, with a Mag 7, or Savage can push apartments with a Mag 7. Like, apartments just makes it kind of interesting, especially for those short-range guns. But effectively, the map's a triangle, which makes it simple to hold as a CT, although you do need to push up, because it's also very easy for the Ts to exploit those rotations.